Once upon a time there was a beautiful girl. When her mother passed away, her father remarried. Her stepmother moved in with her two daughters from her previous marriage. However, these two stepsisters did not like their new stepsister at all. They threw everything in her room up into the attic and burdened her with all the household chores. Even after finishing the chores, she was not allowed to sit with them. In the evenings, she stood alone by the fading fire in the kitchen, trying to warm her hands over the ashes. Because of this, her stepsisters called her Cinderella. One day, the two stepsisters received an invitation to a ball at the palace. They were thrilled, as everyone knew that the prince was looking for a wife. Maybe he'll choose one of us, they thought. The two stepsisters immediately set out to make themselves as beautiful as possible. Unfortunately, this was a bit challenging because, unlike Cinderella, both of them were quite ugly. On the night of the ball, after the stepsisters had left, Cinderella sat in the kitchen and began to cry quietly. A woman's voice asked, "What's wrong, Cinderella?" Sobbing, Cinderella replied, "I also wanted to go to the ball." The voice said, "Then you shall go." Cinderella turned to see a beautiful woman standing beside her. "I am your fairy godmother," said the woman. "We don't have time to waste. Bring me a pumpkin immediately." Cinderella brought a pumpkin, and with a wave of her magic wand, the fairy godmother turned it into a dazzling carriage. Now 6 mice, Cinderella found and brought 6 mice, and the fairy godmother transformed them into horses. A rat, the rat became the coachman, and 6 lizards. They became the footmen pulling the carriage. Finally, it was Cinderella's turn. With a touch of the magic wand, her torn, tattered dress turned into a breathtaking gown. She wore a pair of sparkling glass slippers on her feet.
"There's one thing," said the fairy. "You must be back home by midnight. At the stroke of 12, your dress will turn back to rags, the carriage to a pumpkin, and the horses to mice. You wouldn't want the prince to see that, would you? Now go and enjoy yourself." That night, Cinderella became the star of the ball. The ladies attending the ball, especially her two stepsisters, admired her dress so much that they begged her to reveal the name of her seamstress. The gentlemen competed with each other to dance with her. The prince, as soon as he laid eyes on her, fell in love with her, and from that moment on, no one else was allowed to dance with her. As the hours passed, Cinderella realized she needed to be home by midnight. "Don't go," the prince called after her, but Cinderella didn't stop for a moment and ran away from there. As she stepped onto the street, her dress transformed back to its old rags. All that remained were the glass slippers. She didn't know where she had lost the other one. That night, Cinderella cried herself to sleep. She thought her life would never be as wonderful as that night. But that wasn't true. They found the other glass slipper on the palace stairs. The next morning, the prince went from house to house, trying the shoe on each young lady. He said, "I cannot live if I don't find the beautiful owner of this shoe whom I met last night." Then he arrived at Cinderella's house. Her stepsisters tried on the shoe, but it didn't fit. It didn't even go on their feet. The prince was very upset because there were only a few houses left to check. Just as he was about to leave, the servant of the house caught his attention. "Madam," said the prince to Cinderella, "would you also give it a try?" "Her? Trying it on? No way!" exclaimed the stepsisters. However, the prince insisted. It was evident to him how beautiful Cinderella was. Of course, the shoe fit perfectly on Cinderella's foot. As the prince knelt down to propose, the two stepsisters could only watch with anger and envy. Cinderella, naturally, accepted the prince's proposal.